Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Good news from Washington. The State Department's Foreign Disinformation Center, accused by conservatives of censoring U.S. citizens, was forced to shut its doors due to a lack of funding this week because the U.S. Congress did not include funding in the recently passed spending bill. Details on that. The IRS is admitting that a pandemic recovery rebate credit in 2021 was so confusing that over 1 million people didn't ask for it who actually qualified. So in the goodness of their hearts, they're going to automatically send it out. Watch your mail, folks. A CBS News YouGov poll says that Americans are hopeful for 2025. And the reason why? Well, it might put a smile on your face. Joining us today is Ryan Mosier with Duke Energy to give us an update on the recovery efforts from Hurricane Helene and to give us some energy-saving tips for the cold weather this winter.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but you know they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
This very well could be one of the first wins for the Trump administration. The State Department's so-called Global Engagement Center, known as GEC, and accused by conservatives of censoring American citizens, is finally shutting its door. The center, labeled a major offender in media manipulation, is officially out of business. Here's the story. The GEC, which is it was established in 2016, has been accused of crossing the line from countering foreign disinformation to censoring American citizens and many media outlets. Folks, this wasn't about protecting us from adversaries like Russia or Iran. It was about policing what you can say online. Elon Musk himself called the GEC the worst offender in the U.S. government censorship and media manipulation. And you know what? He's right. The center's funding was stripped as part of the National Defense Authorization Act, the big Pentagon spending bill that was passed recently. And without that money, the GEC is shutting down by the end of the year. And I say, good riddance, right? Let's talk about what the agency was actually up to. The GEC had a budget of $61 million. They had about 120 people on staff. But instead of focusing on real threats, like from Russia, from other foreign adversaries, they were busy blacklisting America media outlets during the pandemic. A report from Matt Taibbi, who exposed the Twitter files, revealed that the GEC flagged accounts as Russian proxies for things like suggesting that COVID-19 might have been engineered in a lab. Sound familiar? It's the same narrative they tried to suppress before the lab leak theory became widely accepted. The GEC even flagged news about Twitter banning Zero Hedge, a popular conservative site, for discussing the lab origin theory. This isn't countering foreign disinformation. This is the government. This is the Biden-Harris administration silencing viewpoints that they don't like. It's just plain and simple. They don't like what you're saying, they're going to shut you down. And the plot kind of thickens. The GEC is now facing a lawsuit brought by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, along with the Daily Wire and the Federalist. The lawsuit claims that the GEC wasn't just suppressing information, it was working hand in hand with big tech to censor conservative media outlets. Here's what the Texas AG's office said. Quote, Congress authorized the creation of the Global Engagement Center expressly to counter foreign propaganda and misinformation. Instead, the agency weaponized this authority to violate the First Amendment and suppress Americans' constitutionally protected speech. Folks, that's a direct assault on our freedoms. According to the lawsuit, conservative outlets like the Daily Wire and the Federalist were branded unreliable or risky by the GEC. So what did that do? It starved them of advertising revenue, and it reduced the number of people that they were able to reach. And they didn't even realize it was happening at the time. And let's not forget the taxpayer-funded grants that the GEC handed out to organizations tracking misinformation was totally wrong as well, because they handpicked who was able to get the grants. Reports show these groups weren't just focused on foreign threats. They were raiding the credibility of domestic news outlets, including conservative ones, mostly conservative ones. So is this not censorship? Was this not them censoring what you were able to read and what conservative outlets was able to publish? Oh, and it gets a little bit better, or maybe worse, depending on how you look at it. America First Legal, led by Stephen Miller, soon to be part of the Trump 2.0, exposed how the GEC used your taxpayer dollars to create a video game called Cat Park. Cat Park is a video game. Supposedly, it was designed to teach young people how to recognize disinformation. You can't make this stuff up, folks. According to reports, the game wasn't just about fighting foreign propaganda. It was also pushing anti-populist political messages, like maybe of Donald Trump. Folks, they weren't just targeting foreign disinformation. They were targeting the kids in America, your kids. So why is the GEC shutting down? Well, Republicans in Congress refused to fund it in the latest government spending bill, and rightly so. The fact is, they just saw right through the GEC charade. At a time when private companies are already doing a better job analyzing disinformation, there's no reason for a government agency wasting $61 million and pushing partisan narratives. The GEC claimed that its grants were for international use only, but we know better. A report from the Republican-led House Small Business Committee showed these grants funded groups tracking both foreign and domestic disinformation. This wasn't just about protecting Americans from foreign influence. It was about controlling what Americans can say, what Americans can read, and what Americans can think. So let me sum it up for you. The Global Engagement Center is gone, out of business, and not a moment too soon. This was an agency that took your tax dollars, used them to suppress speech, push their own political agenda, that of the Biden-Harris administration. Bottom line is a win for free speech. And kudos to the Republicans in Congress for flexing a little bit of muscle there, finally, and say enough is enough. We're not going to keep funding you. And this is what has to happen. This is what I think we're going to see a lot of when Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are able to start making recommendations to Donald Trump. And I think the president's going to give them a lot of leeway to do this. This is an example of a government agency that's just gone amok and needed to be put out of business. Should have been closed down a long, long time ago. By the way, a recent poll, it's a CBS News YouGov poll, says that despite a long and chaotic election season at times, rampant economic woes, an increasingly polarized society, because of Donald Trump's election, Americans remain optimistic about 2025. There are several reasons why people are encouraged as we head into a new year. One of them, though, might be slightly surprising to some of you. The prospect of President-elect Donald Trump taking office. And I think people, the reason they're so positive and they're optimistic is because they know Donald Trump will do things just like this. He's going to identify some of these agencies that have outlived their usefulness and maybe even are hurting Americans, and he's going to get rid of them. He's going to allow Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to look under the hood and tell us what needs to go. The poll revealed that 60% of respondents said the incoming Trump administration is a reason they are feeling hopeful about 2025. About 55% cited family, personal relationships, while 51% referred to the economy, personal finances, and the overall opportunities they believe they'll have under another Trump administration. Party affiliation did have some influence. Optimism among Republicans was at 85%. 49% of independents feel optimistic. Only 38% of Democrats. They're still grieving the loss. they're still upset that their little darling, Kamala Harris, failed miserably. Americans have a dismal view of the current state of the U.S. economy, as we should have. Only 40% describe it as good. That's why they lost on November the 5th, while 54% indicated it's in very bad shape. Much of the negative sentiment is driven by serious concerns over inflation, of course. 96% of people are concerned about inflation, 80% about the uncertainty of the economy and where it's going. And 75% of people said they're just discouraged and concerned about their own personal finances. The data becomes even more interesting when you look at the respondents who indicate that whether they believe Trump will be able to fix America's economic problems. The poll found that 40% believe the president-elect will lower food and grocery prices. 36% believe prices will continue to rise, and 24% say they're not sure anything will change. It's those 24%, I think, who are going to be surprised. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. If you've been putting off a visit to PhD Weight Loss, now's your time because it comes with an amazing free gift. Joey Hudson here. During December, the founder of PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas, is giving the first 100 people to sign up for a consultation a free weight loss and energy supplement bundle. What a great gift. Do what I did. Take control now before heading into the indulgent holiday season. Get a grasp and avoid the holiday pounds. I dropped over 30 pounds, and I'm not worried about parties and overeating because my PhD coach taught me coping mechanisms to help me enjoy holiday events without gaining the weight. Best of all, I never took a weight loss drug. I'm not dependent on a prescription. And I was never hungry. PhD Weight Loss is not about depriving yourself. Lose the awful belly fat, gain energy, and avoid weight-related health issues. You will feel so amazing about yourself and truly enjoy the holiday season. PhD Weight Loss. Ask about the free gift when you book your consultation. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. If you're one of the millions of people in South Carolina hoping to start 2025 by winning the record Mega Millions drawing, be prepared for a whopping tax bill. Today's Mega Million, the drawing is tonight, is worth $1.15 billion. It's the game's largest prize ever offered in the month of December and one of the largest overall. There are two options when you win. You can get a lump sum of your winnings, or you can get 30 annual payments over a 29-year period. If the winner chooses the cash option, they get it before taxes. It will be $516.1 million. In South Carolina, any lottery winnings of $500 or more, the South Carolina Department of Revenue automatically withholds tax. There'll be a 35% federal tax and, of course, the minimum 6.2% state tax on the winning. So here's how it would break out. Now think about this for a minute. If you were to win tonight, the $1.15 billion after federal taxes, state taxes, you're going to net about just over $300 million. So it goes from just over $1 billion to just over $300 million. Now, look, I've lived on a lot less, but still, is that not amazing? It goes from $1 billion to $300 million. If you take the annuity option, you would receive 30 average annual payments of about $23 million each year, which would net you a total of about $650 million. Now, the problem with the annuity option is you don't know if you're going to be here for 30 more years. In my case, I can almost guarantee you I won't be here 30 more years. So that's what you're looking for tonight, as the Mega Millions drawing will be at 8 o'clock tonight. If you have a ticket, good luck. A little later in today's show, we're going to be joined by Ryan Mosier with Duke Energy, and we're going to talk about energy savings and some tips to stay warm during the winter. But we're also going to get an update on just how the recovery efforts from Hurricane Helene are going and what work Duke Energy is continuing to do. I say that to say this. In the aftermath, of course, of Hurricane Helene, which, of course, left parts of North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and South Carolina, not as bad, but some of these areas of western North Carolina and Tennessee, they're still dealing with a lot of devastation. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, as we all know, failed miserably in some of those areas to just help provide some of the basic needs that Americans in these areas needed. Heading into a new year, many of the towns are still struggling to get by with just basic needs. People are literally sleeping in campers. Katie Pavlich evidently was in the western North Carolina area recently. She posted, "My buddy Dave sent some photos from a visit this week to North Carolina and Tennessee." Oh, it's a friend of hers. Says people are still in very bad shape, and she posted some images of vehicles that have been flooded out and some homes that you could tell are flooded out. Post says, "I just got back from a 30-hour journey, 1,000+ miles to Irwin, Tennessee and Asheville, North Carolina. This is a war zone and help is still needed. With Biden giving $1 billion to Africa for natural disasters yesterday and over $700 million to Ukraine again, this is just another slap in the face to Americans that desperately need help. 80-year-old Vietnam veterans are living in a 6x8 shed until someone recently donated a camper for him." And it goes on to talk about how President Trump, when he got word of the slow response by some of the FEMA teams in the area, how he started this GoFundMe page for the hurricane victims. It goes on to say, President Trump announced over $8 million in donations for the victims of Hurricane Helene raised through his dedicated GoFundMe site. As reported by Fox Business, President Trump's Hurricane Helene relief was the top fundraiser on GoFundMe in 2024 and supported nearly 50,000 people across all 50 states and more than 50 countries. These funds were distributed to charities including Samaritan's Purse, Water Mission, Mountain to Sea, the Clinch Foundation, and Sweetwater Mission to uplift impacted families and communities, according to the Trump transition team. They went on to say, amid several trips and briefings to evaluate the devastation, President Trump took action to provide relief for Americans in desperate need of the government assistance they did not receive. This was not only a testament to President Trump's promise to put America first, but Americans' willingness to come together and help one another. Alongside President Trump, Americans across the country united to provide relief for these victims and their families. As noted, it was the largest GoFundMe total for 2024. And that's just amazing, isn't it? That it took an incoming president to shine the spotlight in order to raise money like this. By the way, speaking of the Biden-Harris administration and not responding the way they should, we continue to hear these little stories of how miserable the Kamala Harris campaign failed. This recent one in the New York Post talks about how Vice President Harris stormed out of a meeting with some of the powerful Teamsters leadership, particularly President Sean O'Brien, who she reportedly arrogantly said she didn't need his support. She said, "I'll win it with you or without you," just, of course, before her crushing loss to Donald Trump. Now, it was very interesting that the Teamsters decided not to endorse a candidate this year. However, they released their internal polling that showed that a majority of Teamsters actually supported Donald Trump, even though they didn't offer an endorsement. The union revealed that its 1.3 million members, overwhelmingly 59.6%, supported Trump to Harris's 34%. Before Biden withdrew, he held a steady lead of just over 44% over Trump. They weren't buying what Kamala Harris was selling, and she was so arrogant and so out of touch. Again, according to this New York Post article, she thought she was in charge, and that this may be why Sean O'Brien and the Teamsters decided they weren't going to endorse her, and why they released their polling data. O'Brien recalled the episode on the Tucker Carlson show on Monday of this week as he discussed his union's historic decision not to endorse a presidential candidate. It is the first time in over 30 years that they had not endorsed primarily the Democrat. O'Brien said that Harris finally agreed to sit with the Teamsters for a roundtable after Joe Biden, of course, decided to drop out of the race. Now, here's the interesting part. According to the report, she agreed to sit down with the Teamsters, but only answered about a quarter of the 16 questions they asked her. Other candidates, including Trump, answered them all, according to the Teamsters. O'Brien told Tucker Carlson, On the fourth question, one of her operatives or one of her staff slips a note in front of me saying, this will be the last question. And don't you think that arrogance is one of many reasons that Kamala Harris failed miserably on November the 5th? Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. We're officially in winter, and with that, of course, comes the cold weather that has Duke Energy helping their customers prepare for extreme weather in the next few months. Duke has a great free home energy assessment that you can take advantage of, which helps customers prepare their homes for these colder temperatures. Joining me today is Ryan Mosier with the Duke Energy Communications Office. Welcome, Ryan. How are you, sir?
I'm well, Joey. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. Before we get into some of the tips that you have for cold weather, give us an update on storm recovery from Hurricane Helene. I know you guys worked hard for the weeks following the storm to get service restored, but are you pretty much finished with that, or are you still doing cleanup and repairs?
So in the upstate, we had everybody back on within the first 13 days. Everybody that could receive power were up in 13 days. But we have a slightly different situation, to our friends up north in the foothills and in the Asheville area. While most people still have power, there's still a lot of reconstruction that needs to happen up there, some ongoing projects and the like. And so we're still boots on the ground with extra folks up there, making sure that we get more permanent repairs in place in that area. But we're also looking at some things in the upstate as well. Sometimes when you go through a massive restoration effort like that, you do what you have to do to get the power up to everybody as quickly as you can and safely as you can. And then you go back and look for places where you can firm things up and make more permanent repairs. And so we're doing that as we move through these next few months. And we hope that our customers are okay with everything that happened over the last couple of months. We've gotten really great response from everybody. Their patience was just tremendous, and we really thank them for it.
Sure. As we were watching the storm approach, did you guys have any idea that it was going to affect us the way it did?
I don't think anyone had any idea of the true impacts we saw on the ground after the storm passed. We've dealt with, as you can imagine, a lot of storms in our time, whether there's winter storms with ice or tropical events that come in from the ocean or from the Gulf. And this was one that, while we were tracking and we were planning for, just like all the other utilities in the state, it just caused impacts that you just don't see this time of year and with that time of storm. We learned a lot from this one. We were in front of our regulator last week, the Public Service Commission of South Carolina, where we described our processes and what actually took place on the ground before, during, and after the storm, and also talked about lessons learned and how we'll be incorporating those in our planning processes moving forward, like we always do.
Yeah. Ryan Mosier with me today with Duke Energy. The thing that really stands out to me, Ryan, was I saw utility trucks from other companies, from other states who had come in to help out. And I saw people buying coffee and breakfast for the utility workers. You guys were the heroes. And, it just really makes you feel good to see when people come together to work together to try to help everyone else.
The response we got from our customers in the upstate was tremendous. We were getting requests every day. What can we do to help the guys who are here from out of town and the locals who are supporting the restoration effort, whether it was And this was the one thing that I really appreciated. We had elementary schools dropping off dozens, bags of cards written by kids just saying, thank you for getting the power back on. Thank you for everything you do. But we had restaurants and other organizations that were looking for ways they could support the effort. Firmin University, a great big shout out for them for hosting a number of folks from out of town on very short notice, and we really appreciated the efforts that they provided. But all of those organizations and the individual customers in the neighborhoods and businesses out there, they just showed a tremendous amount of virtuous love, for lack of a better word, in this holiday season, and we really appreciate it.
Sure, yeah. Let's talk a minute about cold weather. Of course, it's here, and some of the tips that you have for us to stay warm, save on energy at the same time. Tell us, for example, about your free home energy assessment. Who should do this, and is it really free?
It is, and it's one of a number of different options that customers can partake in to see what works for them in their particular situation. The home energy assessment has been one of those things where typically it's an in-home visit, and we have contractors who do this work. They'll come in and they'll offer advice and also provide some products, things like weather stripping and LED lights and other easy fixes that can help take a bit of a chunk out of your energy bills. But we've turned that into a virtual option as well and have opened it up to more customers. And it's not just homeowners, it can be renters as well. So we encourage anybody who's looking for ways to reduce their energy imprint and save on the energy bills to check that program out. There are also some programs for homeowners that will come and check your attic and your duct work out. We have contractors who will come and do that work and offer suggestions and also do some improvements there. So there are a number of different programs, and we no one size fits all. And so we encourage folks who are curious about it to visit the website and see what works for them.
Sure. Now, you have some just low to no cost energy saving tips and all too that probably are common sense to you guys, but maybe not so much to those of us, your consumer. Kind of give us a list of some of the things that you would encourage people to do as we really enter the cold season.
Yeah, and these are the things that anybody can do. They're the easiest thing that you can do to impact your energy bill. And a lot of them apply in the summertime as well, but particularly in the wintertime. And one that I do every day is open your windows. Open those blinds, those big windows, especially on the parts of your home that are facing the sun for a good part of the day, especially if you're not going to be around. Let that sun shine in. That thermal energy can have a tremendous impact on the temperature in your home. And another easy one, and this is one that I hope everybody does, but you make sure that your HVAC system is healthy. A couple of times a year, when you're going into winter, when you're going into summer, just a simple thing like changing the filters can make a huge difference on the performance of that system. I would also say, weather stripping is so important, making sure that your home is bundled up and is not leaking. That can be a huge suck on the way that your systems perform in your home and can create a tremendous burden on your energy bill.
Yep. Now, of course, in the winter with the heat, sometimes we get those higher bills than expected. What types of programs does Duke Energy have for people that might help them make those payments?
So, that the energy bill can be a large portion of monthly expenses for just about anybody. And you see spikes in the summertime and wintertime. And then you have to understand that sometimes folks are just having a hard time paying their bills in general. And so we partner with a number of different agencies to ensure that there's opportunities out there to help with those bills. There are plenty of organizations in your community and across the state that can help with assistance for these utility bills. All you got to do is just give them a call. And if you visit our website, duke-energy.com/seasonal savings, you can find links to those resources and everything else I've talked about today.
Yeah. Now, we talked about a minute ago about some of the things that you can do, and of course, the free home energy assessment. Let's say you have the assessment done and there's some things that are identified, maybe insulation or sealing of your home. Do you have programs that would help people get those things done?
Yeah, the Smart Saver program is one that we've implemented here the last few years, and this is the one that will help you with your attics and your ductwork. So if the home energy assessment shows you some areas where you can fortify and improve the weatherization of the home. These are the types of programs that you can pursue. There are rebates involved that will offset the cost of that type of work. And we provide a list of trusted contractors that you can use as well.
Yeah. Ryan Mosier with Duke Energy, thank you for your time. Appreciate what you guys do, and especially the yeoman's job that you did after Hurricane Helene. Hope you realize that it did not go unnoticed. You guys just did a wonderful job under very challenging circumstances. I give you that. I'm not going to please everyone, but still, with the catastrophic losses that we had, you just did a wonderful, wonderful job, and I appreciate that. Thanks for your time today, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, Joy, and I hope everybody out there has a safe holiday as well.
Sure thing. I think we're all sort of anticipating how the deportation will actually work, as Donald Trump continues to say that he will lead the largest deportation program in our nation's history. Tom Holman has been on all the news shows talking about how he's ready to go to work and he's putting together his team. A conservative legal group says that they're putting sanctuary jurisdictions across the U.S. on notice ahead of this expected mass deportation program. America First Legal says it's notified nearly 250 officials in jurisdictions which limit or forbid local law enforcement cooperation with ICE, that they're warning them that there could be legal consequences for interfering with the feds or for concealing illegal immigrants. President-elect Trump has promised to launch this historic deportation campaign day one, and his transition team has already been making concrete steps towards the goal. America's First Legal president is Stephen Miller. He'll be part of Trump 2.0. He'll serve as the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy in the new Trump White House. But a number of Democrat officials in states including Arizona, Colorado, California, Massachusetts, to name just a few, have said that they will not cooperate with the operation. In fact, they have suggested that they will try to actually put up roadblocks to keep this operation from being successful. Border Czar Tom Holman has hinted there could be legal consequences for those who get in the way of his operation. Proponents of sanctuary policies argue that local jurisdictions cannot be compelled to assist the government, and that barring ICE cooperation encourages otherwise law-abiding illegal immigrants to work with police and report crimes, making the area safer, they say. Now, opponents say that policies result in the release of otherwise deportable criminals back onto the streets. The AFL's notice sent to the 249 officials says that the federal government has ultimate authority over immigration and points to clauses in federal law that prohibit state and local governments from restricting communications with DHS about immigration status, and that making, concealing, or harboring or shielding an illegal immigrant, it makes it a federal crime. The group argues that sanctuary policies can therefore lead to criminal liability, and that victims of illegal immigrant crime may be able to sue these jurisdictions for damages. In the letter that was mailed, it says, "We have identified your jurisdiction as a sanctuary jurisdiction that is violating federal law. Such lawlessness subjects you and your subordinates to significant risk of criminal and civil liability. Accordingly, we're sending this letter to put you on notice of this risk and insist that you comply with our nation's laws." The group's also launching a new website that gives users a map of sanctuary strongholds and identifies jurisdictions with sanctuary policies and giving contact information for the elected officials in those areas. The group also announced that it's filed a petition with the DOJ's Office of Violence Against Women to seek data on citizenship status and nationality information against those charged with a slew of crimes against women and children, which includes domestic violence, murder, and child mistreatment. In addition, it's filing requests to officials, including mayors and governors across the U.S., for information on organizations it believes are undermining federal immigration enforcement. This is just another example of a private entity America First Legal, working to help the Trump organization. Of course, Stephen Miller, again, will be part of the of Trump 2.0. But this is how things are going to look so much different in this new Trump administration. You're going to have you're going to have these private groups like this helping the official government agencies within the Trump organization to succeed. In a statement, America's First Legal's senior vice president, Reed Rubenstein, pointed to the recent arrest of an illegal immigrant in New York City, where he set fire to a homeless woman on the subway and sat there and watched her burn. He said the left-wing politicians who create and run these cities and those who support them put our citizens at risk, undermine our Constitution, and dangerously erode the rule of law. America First Legal will continue working tirelessly to protect our immigration laws and support the brave men and women who enforce them. Today's actions are but a first step in our fight against sanctuary lawlessness. The new announcements shine a spotlight on what will be a fierce fight between the Trump administration, its allies, and the Democrats and those left-wing activists who are going to try to fight deportation and fight the new Trump administration any way they can. If they can slow it down, if they can put up roadblocks, they're going to do so. And some of these sanctuary cities are already doubling down. Boston City Council recently voting to limit ICE cooperation and to ban police from keeping migrants in custody for possible deportation unless there's a criminal warrant. Imagine a city like this telling their police officers who are sworn to uphold the law that they can't enforce the law. I mean, what kind of example does this set? And what kind of position does it put the men and women in law enforcement in? This resolution that was adopted by the Boston City Council states proposals for mass deportations represent a direct attack on Boston's immigrant families and threaten to tear communities apart. Wow. So it's okay. Boston, I guess, believes that you can come into our country illegally and there's no consequences. You can head to Boston and they'll protect you. Well, I say, hey, look, that's fine. Let Boston be a sanctuary city. Let Chicago be a sanctuary city. But don't expect any federal funding to help you. You can pay for it yourself. Don't use my federal tax dollars to support this. Now, some Democrat officials have indicated their willingness to at least help or not obstruct. Tom Holman, you may recall, just last week met with New York City Mayor Eric Adams. They discussed how cooperation might look between the new Trump administration and the city of New York. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker also said he wanted to see violent criminals who were undocumented and convicted of violent crime deported, and said he would welcome a meeting with Holman as well. That's a change for the Illinois governor. He has traditionally supported sanctuary status. Maybe they're finally waking up. Maybe they're finally realizing that these people can be dangerous. And unfortunately, we've seen a rash of very violent acts in particularly New York City, but maybe it's waking them up. Fox News reported this month that new data that was provided to Congress showed there are 1.4 million non-citizens who have deportation orders but are not currently in immigration and customs enforcement detention. So we got 1.4 million non-citizens who have deportation orders already, and they're eluding authorities. And you've got some of these sanctuary cities protecting them. You know, when Tom Holman says that they're going to focus on the worst of the worst, I think that's what he means. I mean, I would say the 1.4 million that already have deportation orders on their head, they should be first. Line them up, ship them out. We'll see. And it's going to be something to watch for sure. Hey, I got some good news for you. America's least favorite government agency, guess which one that is? All right, I'm going to tell you. The Internal Revenue Service. They just announced that they're going to issue automatic payments to eligible taxpayers who missed out on claiming the recovery rebate credit on their 2021 tax returns. Now, remember that this was part of one of the COVID packages. Remember that credit? It's part of the pandemic-era stimulus that aimed to put money directly into the hands of hardworking Americans. Well, I guess the IRS finally realized it was so complicated to do. Over 1 million people just didn't do it. They didn't claim it on the tax return. So now what's the IRS going to do? They're going to just automatically issue these payments, and they can be up to $1,400, but they're going to automatically put it in your checking account or send you a check, depending on what method you always choose for your refund. You're going to get it automatically. You're not going to have to file an amended return. The IRS Commissioner, Danny Werfel, put out a statement saying the IRS continues to work hard to make improvements and help taxpayers. Well, that's kind of rich coming from an agency that asked for billions in new funding, right? How many was it? Like 80,000 new employees. Maybe that's what these 80,000 employees have been doing, trying to find out how to send this money back. Hey, I'm good. I'm good with that. Look, I'm not going to argue with them about getting money in people's pockets faster, but let's not pretend that they're doing this out of the kindness of their hearts. I mean, what's really going on here is they're trying to cover their backs, realizing that the credit was so confusing that 1 million people didn't know they qualified for it. It's typical government red tape at its best. So now they're coming back, and they're going to make it easy, as they should, to the people who qualify. If you filed a 2021 tax return and you left the recovery rebate credit field blank, or you put in 0, when in fact you actually was eligible for it, guess what? You're on the list. And don't worry. If you've closed a bank account linked to your 2023 tax return, the IRS says that they'll mail you a check in snail mail. For those of you wondering how much this could be worth, again, the max is $1,400 per individual. Hey, $1,400, I could use an extra 14, could you? That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.